If you're doing anything interesting in the world, you're going to have critics. The only way, if you absolutely can't tolerate critics, then don't do anything new or interesting. I think it's gigantic. I do. I think natural language understanding, I think machine learning in general, artificial intelligence, it's probably hard to overstate how big of an impact it's going to have on society over the next 20 years. So it is big. It doesn't mean that phones are going to go away or anything like that. It's not like voice interfaces are going to replace screens. So people have eyes, and as long as people have eyes, they will also want screens, and we have fingers. We'd like to touch things, and so on. But it has been a dream ever since people started in the early days of science fiction to have a computer that you can talk to in a natural way and actually have a conversation with and ask it to do things for you, and that is coming true. And you're seeing similar amazing progress with machine vision. The combination of new and better algorithms, vastly superior compute power, and the ability to harness huge amounts of training data. Those three things are coming together to solve some previously unsolvable problems. And they're going to drive a tremendous amount of utility for customers, and customers are going to adopt those things. One of the reasons we always wanted to greet you by name on Amazon is so that as soon as you come to the site, you see, "Welcome back, Jeff Bezos." You know you're not anonymous on our site. And you know that in a way that would never be as clearly articulated by a set of terms and conditions. We do want to keep using energy, and energy is limited here. You can do a simple calculation. If you take baseline global energy utilization today and grow it at just 3% a year, the power of compounding is so extraordinary that within just a few hundred years, you will have to cover all of the landmass of Earth in solar cells. Just 3% compounding in just a few hundred years. So what are you going to do? Well, I think what you're going to do is you're going to move out in space. This will happen over, over the next few hundred years. All of our heavy industry will be moved off planet, and Earth will be zoned residential and light industrial. Move forward. It's not worth losing any sleep over. And by the way, usually people, if you see something, I don't know, you're kind of a public figure, and things have probably been written about you that you didn't think were nice.
That's true.
And my advice, if you came to me and said, "Jeff, this, somebody wrote this and it really hurt my feelings. What should I do?" I would say, go stand on a street corner and watch in a crowded urban area and watch all the people walk by and think about what they're thinking about. I bet you none of those people are thinking about you. I can take this from a couple of directions, but the old saying that sometimes, I think it's attributed to Confucius. Who knows if it's really Confucius or not? But seek revenge, and you should dig 2 graves, one for yourself. And really, you always have to ask yourself, how do you want to spend your time? How do you want to spend your time and your energy? And do you really want to do that trying to right even if it's legitimate wrong? Like, let's say that somebody actually did wrong you. Is that really how you want to spend your time? I don't think so. I think most people, if they step back, take a deep breath, they would say, "I'm going to go on and do great things. I'm going to do amazing things in the future." Then from I would also say that public figure, as a public figure, the best defense against, and again, I'm not going to try to get into any particular story. This is not about Peter or Gawker or any particular thing, but the best defense to speech that you don't like about yourself as a public figure is to develop a thick skin. It's really the only effective defense, because you can't stop it. You are going to be misunderstood. If you're doing anything interesting in the world, you're going to have critics. The only way, if you absolutely can't tolerate critics, then don't do anything new or interesting. Well, we're very like-minded. I know Elon, and we're very like-minded in many ways. We're not conceptual twins. One of the things that I want us to do is go to Mars, but for me, it's one of the things. He's singularly focused on that. I have, and I also think kind of, motivation-wise, I don't like for me, I don't find that Plan B idea motivating. I have nothing wrong with it. I think it's good when the world has lots of different motivations, but I don't want a Plan B for Earth. I want Plan B to make sure Plan A works. And this is, I think you go to space to save Earth. And we know about the solar system now. We have sent robotic probes all over the solar system. Let me assure you, this is the best planet. If you go back to when I started Amazon, all of the heavy lifting infrastructure to support Amazon was already in place. We did not have to invent a remote payment system. It was already there. It was called the credit card. And it was invented much earlier for people who traveled a lot, and then for people who went to restaurants a lot, and so on and so on. And finally, most people at that time already had a credit card. We did not have to invent transportation, local transportation, last mile. There was this thing called the U.S. Postal Service and UPS, which was not invented for e-commerce. But if we had had to deploy last mile transportation 20 years ago, it would have cost hundreds of billions of dollars of capital. It would have been impossible for a company like Amazon to even conceive of doing that. Same thing, deploying compute infrastructure. There was already a computer on every desk, and it wasn't put on every desk so that people could do e-commerce. There was a computer on every desk mostly in the home so people could play games. And there was also, how did the internet grow so fast? Even there, the heavy lifting infrastructure had already been done for another purpose, which was the long-distance phone network. All of the fiber in the grounds at that time, and all the ways, all the microwave communications towers and all the things that existed 2 decades ago were put in place for another reason. Again, would have been hundreds of billions of dollars of CapEx deployed. So when it comes to space, I see it as my job. This is what I'm building infrastructure the hard way. I'm using my resources to put in place heavy lifting infrastructure so that the next generation of people can have a dynamic, entrepreneurial explosion into space. It's hard to know when do you stop. I think every single important thing we've ever done, the most important things have always seemed dumb to industry experts at the beginning. So to get really good results, you have to defy conventional wisdom. And the problem, of course, is that conventional wisdom is usually correct. And so a simple test, like let's go talk to experts and ask them if we should do Amazon Web Services, that would be a huge failure. They would all tell you, this is stupid, stick to the knitting, you've got a great retail business, whatever you do, don't do this AWS thing, it can't possibly work. And of course, that would have been wrong. And so you can't listen to people at the beginning when they say it won't work, but you do have to sort of say, what are we doing differently? Now, let's say you're being stubborn on the vision and flexible on the details, which I think is the right recipe. You want always to be very flexible on the tactics and the details, but very stubborn on the vision and the strategy. And at some point, though, you may need to give up even on the vision. So you planted the seed. Great teams worked on it for multiple years. How do you know when is that day where you say, you know what, let's try the next one? And I think it's when the last high judgment champion folds his or her cards.
Okay.